Imagine it. You awaken to a silent world, the last echo of humanity dying in your breath. No God to fear, no crowd to follow, no morality to obey. You are alone, utterly, magnificently alone. Now, ask yourself, will you crumble without the herd, or will you rise as a creator of new worlds? Welcome to the abyss where only the strongest spirit survives. This is not survival. This is transcendence. Imagine a morning where you rise and no sound greets you but the rustle of your own heartbeat. The cities are empty tombs. The forests stand as silent cathedrals. You are the last human, the final witness to a vanished multitude of trembling souls who once needed each other to feel real. They needed the gaze of another to affirm their existence, the applause, the scorn, the perpetual noise of the herd to feel alive. But you, solitary wanderer, now stand above them all, beyond their petty affirmations and hollow judgments, alone and finally free. The phrase sounds like a curse to the many, but to the one who dares, it is the greatest liberation. In the suffocating mass, man becomes a mere echo, a puppet dancing on the strings of tradition, morality, and fear. He confesses to the gods he invented, obeys the laws he never questioned, worships the idols of comfort and community. But stripped of the herd, stripped of every mirror reflection, man stands naked before the abyss, trembling yet alive in a way he has never known. Can you feel it? The exhilarating terror that rushes into your lungs when you know there is no one left to deceive, no audience before whom to perform? The last human breathes a thinner air, a cold, sharp air that slices through the illusions of collective life. In this frozen silence, there are no good deeds to earn praise, no sins to confess, no weak eyes watching to punish your strength. You become the lone judge, the lone artist, the lone god of your fate. What is morality when there are no others? What is virtue when no trembling sheep are there to whisper approval? Without the herd, you're forced to confront the raw truth. Most virtues were cowardice wearing a noble mask. Most moralities were prisons designed to keep the trembling masses docile. Alone, you're forced to ask yourself, who am I when the chains are gone? Many would perish in this freedom, like fish dragged from the sea onto dry land, suffocating in the open air of true autonomy. But you must not drown in this solitude. You must learn to dance above it, to taste the divine intoxication of self-creation. Alone, you hear only your own heartbeat. It sounds like a war drum now, urging you to become what no one has dared to become. Every step you take echoes through eternity. Every thought shapes a new cosmos born solely from your will. You are no longer a man, no longer a fragment of collective soul. You are the sculptor of yourself, the chisel and the marble, the question and the answer. Without the herd, the masks fall away. There is no longer a need to play a compassion, to mimic humility, to pretend allegiance to values you never chose. You stand at the precipice of becoming, a chasm of infinite possibilities yawning beneath your feet. You might tremble, you might scream, you might even long for the warm embrace of the vanished herd. But if you dare, if you truly dare, you'll leap forward instead of crawling backward. Alone and finally free. Free to create new values, to set your own sun and follow it into the night. Free to love your own power without shame, to despise weakness without guilt, to sing your own hymns to a sky that listens only to you. This is not loneliness. This is sovereignty. This is not exile. This is ascension. Let the shadows of the old world weep for companionship. Let their ghosts haunt empty cities. But you must walk on, your head high, your spirit blazing like a solitary star above the desert of human dust. You are alone, and finally you are free. Listen closely, for the universe has fallen silent, and now it is your breath that shapes the cosmos. When you become the last human, there are no priests to tremble before, no ancestors obey, no trembling crowd to mirror your face. You stand at the altar of an empty world, and in the sacred, dreadful stillness, you're offered a terrifying gift, to become your own God. Do you feel the terror crawling up your spine? That is the whisper of real freedom, the echo of a divine solitude that demands you forge your own commandments from the ashes of all others. Man, in his weakness, has always craved gods. He has crafted them from clay, from fear, from the wild trembling in his soul that recoils before the unknown. He bows, he begs, he sacrifices. He kneels so he may never need to rise. But the last human has no one to kneel before, no heavens to direct his prayers, no sacred tablets handed down by trembling prophets. The temples are ruins, the altars choked with dust, and the heavens gaze down as cold witnesses to your solitude. The chains are broken, but now your hands tremble because you no longer know what to do with them. Will you collapse, pitiful and small, longing for the phantom embrace of your vanished gods? Or will you feel that terrible surge, that electric thrill, as the realization sears through your bones? I am a lawgiver now. I am a flame that devours old idols and the architect of new worlds. You must become your own god, a creator of values, a sculptor of fate, a sovereign who stands above judgment. For there is no higher judge left. When you are the last human, there are no commandments carved in stone, no moral codes left to recite in trembling monotony. The old moralities were designed for herds huddling together in fear, for pale souls clinging to each other against the night. You have no herd to protect you, no fellowship to absolve your cowardice. All illusions shatter like glass under your stride, and the only sound is your own heartbeat echoing in the void. The gods are dead, and their funeral song is your own breath. Each exhale a declaration of independence. There is no virtue in obedience when there is no master. There is no sin when no trembling eyes watch from the sky. There is no sacrifice when no altar stands waiting to receive your blood. You are the priest, the offering, and the flame. Can you bear this burden, or will you collapse into the dust and beg for the ghosts of your ancestors to come save you? Will you crawl back into the cave of shadows, inventing new idols to escape the burning light of your own divinity? To become your own god is to accept an unbearable responsibility. To create your own meaning without witness, to shape your destiny with no audience to applaud or condemn. Every step you take becomes scripture. Every thought you shape becomes a new commandment. There is no punishment but your own regret, no reward but your own exaltation. Can you carry the weight of this eternal freedom, or will it crush you beneath its infinite sky? The weak will invent new ghosts, new laws, new chains to feel the comfort of submission again. But the strong, the solitary creator, will laugh in the face of the abyss and cast new stars into its void. He will wear the crown of solitude, not as a curse, but as a symbol of triumph. His laughter will echo where once prayers were whispered. His footsteps will become thunder in the silence where once only sermons droned. In the end, there is only you, standing upon the smoking ruins of every god ever worshipped, your eyes burning with a light no sun can rival. You do not worship. You do not obey. You do not kneel. You rise. You command. You create. And in that act, you become more than man, more than the last remnant of decayed species. You become a god of your own universe, the solitary star in the sky now waiting for your new dawn. Imagine the moment when the last echo of human chatter fades, when the final trembling confession is swallowed by the cold air, when the herd collapses into dust and history becomes a silent tomb. There, in the spectral quiet, stands a last human, a being without chorus, without applause, without the suffocating warmth of the collective body. In this desolation, something ancient dies and something godlike is born. The death of the herd is not a tragedy. It is a violent liberation. The herd was always a cage disguised as comfort, a graveyard painted to look like a festival. They needed each other not out of love, but out of terror. The terror of standing alone before the abyss, of carrying the unbearable weight of freedom. They called it virtue to obey. They called it love to dissolve themselves into the mass. They found joy in surrendering will, drowning in the swamp of shared opinions, praising mediocrity as kindness. But all that collapses when the herd dies. The temples are empty, the laws are dust, and no trembling eyes remain to measure your worth. You breathe the pure air of solitude, an air so sharp it cuts through your lungs like a blade, leaving you reborn in agony and ecstasy. Now begins the transformation. The last human, unshackled from the collective hallucination, stands at the threshold of becoming the Übermensch. The herd was a cocoon. The last human is the emerging god in the making. Alone, you can no longer hide behind the collective cowardice, the comforting chorus of we believe, we fear, we obey. There is no we now, Only you, raw and sovereign, faced with your own infinity. What is left when no one is left to judge or to adore? What remains when no trembling sheep gather to bleat out approval or condemnation? You, and only you, the silent throne of your own kingdom, the master of your will. The herd's death is your invitation to metamorphosis. It is an open door into a realm where you must create your own laws and bear the full weight of your power. The Übermensch is not born in comfort or consensus. He is forged in solitude, in the violent rejection of the herd's narcotic illusions. He does not crave followers, does not kneel to old altars, does not seek forgiveness in the eyes of the frightened multitude. He laughs where they would wail. He dances where they would crawl. His freedom terrifies because it shows what man can become when stripped of every excuse and every crutch. When the herd dies, it exposes the fragility of the human soul. Most would dissolve into madness, unable to breathe without the collective lung. But the rare spirit, the one who dares to bear the abyss within, will rise as a new dawn. He will mold his own destiny, sculpt his own morality, drink deeply from the well of solitude until he no longer thirsts for the dirty water of communal praise. The death of the herd is not an end but a beginning. A violent, beautiful beginning that demands strength beyond measure. It is a funeral for the last chains, a pyre for every lie told to make life tolerable to the weak. You, as the last human, must step forward as the master sculptor of yourself, hammer in one hand and starfire in the other. You must carve out your own commandments, craft your own heavens, and sing hymns that only you will hear. When the herd dies, your mask shatters. Every borrowed virtue, every second-hand ideal, every inherited morality crumbles at your feet. You must decide. Will you gather the shards and try to rebuild your prison, or will you laugh and stride naked into the storm, crowned only by your own will? In this moment, the Übermensch is not a distant dream but a demand, a fire roaring inside your marrow. You must ascend or be swallowed by the nothingness. The herd is dead, and from its ashes, you are called to rise beyond man, beyond fear, beyond all that has ever been called human. Imagine you wake to an eternal sunrise, a dawn that loops upon itself forever. There is no end, no merciful night to swallow your mistakes, no final curtain to hide your shame. You are the last human, and you must live every breath, every decision, every triumph, and every cowardly retreat over and over for eternity. This is no heaven, no hell devised by trembling priests. This is your own infinite mirror, a question that cuts deeper than any blade. Would you choose to live this life again and again, exactly as it is? This is the abyss of eternal recurrence, the ultimate test of your spirit's strength. When there are no others left, there are no witnesses to whom you can lie, no herd to forgive your betrayals, no comforting mass to drown out the small, trembling voice of your conscience. You are alone with your actions, alone with your thoughts, alone with the echoes of your own becoming. Every moment, each step you take on the ash-laden ground, every choice carved into the empty air becomes your fate, a fate you must embrace not once, but for eternity. In this infinite loop, excuses dissolve. Regret becomes an eternal scream echoing across the hollow sky. Here, the weak would fall to their knees, begging for oblivion, for the sweet mercy of an ending. But the one who dares to become more than human, the one who dares to defy the herd and the gods alike, will instead roar back at the abyss. Yes, I choose this. I choose it forever. Only he who can affirm his existence in its entirety, its joys, its torments, its absurdities, can truly be called free. To live under eternal recurrence is to carry the weight of your own existence without resentment, without yearning for escape. It is to shape your life into a work of art so complete that you would sign your name beneath it for all time. When the last human stands alone beneath the endless sky, he must ask, am I living a life I would choose again and again? Or am I merely drifting, cowering, swallowing each day like bitter medicine? The eternal recurrence is not a curse for the strong spirit. It is the ultimate liberation. It frees you from a comforting lie that your failures will be buried, that your cowardice will be forgotten, that your betrayals will be erased by the collective amnesia of the herd. Here, in the echoing void, every cowardly step, every unspoken word, every stifled scream reverberates into infinity. And so you must become the kind of being who wills each moment fiercely enough to live it eternally. This is where the last human transforms into something greater, into a creator who does not merely endure life, but commands it. He shapes each moment as if the universe itself will echo it for all eternity, because it will. He no longer drags his past behind him like a rotting corpse, no longer gazes longingly into a future that never arrives. Instead, he hammers the present into a shining monument, a testament to his own strength and his refusal to bow to despair. There is no herd to distract you, no priest to absolve you, no lover to whisper soft lies of comfort. You are your own confessor, your own punisher, your own redeemer. Can you smile upon your life as it is? Can you dance with your own shadow under an eternal sun? This is the most savage demand of all, to love your fate so completely that you would embrace it endlessly, to sing your own song into the void without ever tiring of the refrain. In the mirror of eternal recurrence, you are confronted with the purest, most merciless reflection of your being. Will you spit at it and curse your chains, or will you embrace it as your own divine creation? The eternal recurrence invites you to become an artist of your own soul, to chisel each breath into eternity, to stand unflinching before the infinite repetition of your own choices. Only the spirit who can cry yes to this abyss truly transcends humanity and steps into the realm of the gods. Imagine standing at the edge of a dead world, your feet planted in the ashes of every moral code ever written, your hands trembling not with fear, but with the electric thrill of boundless possibility. There are no judges left to pronounce you good or evil, no trembling masses to cheer or hiss, no divine tribunal awaiting your confession. Only you remain, face to face with the infinite horizon of your own will. Beyond good and evil lies the raw, terrifying, sublime question. What will you do when only your own law remains? When the echoes of thou shalt not have faded into the cosmic dust, and every commandment lies shattered at your feet like broken glass, there remains only the silent roar of your own inner abyss. Once, you move carefully, tiptoeing to the labyrinth of morality, terrified of stepping beyond the invisible fences erected by frightened ancestors and priests. You feared the cold stare of your neighbor, the righteous fury of your tribe, the invisible eye of a distant god. You obeyed not because you were good, but because you were weak, because the warmth of the herd's approval was sweeter than the lonely chill of your own sovereignty. You called it virtue, but it was submission wearing the mask of piety. You praised yourself for obedience and called it humility, but it was only cowardice clothed in borrowed words. But now, there are no fences, no priests, no watchful gods, just you and the endless sky, you and the deep tremor of your own spirit. The last human must stand alone where morality dissolves like morning mist, and only the will remains as compass and flame. The timid spirit might collapse here, longing for the comforting whip of the shepherd, the safety of invisible walls. The weak will weep for lost chains, because freedom tastes like poison to lips accustomed to prayers. But for the strong, this is the moment of true birth. The dissolution of morality is not a loss but liberation, an invitation to shape your life as an artist shapes clay, unconcerned with the screeches of distant phantoms. You do not need justification from invisible ghosts. You do not need forgiveness from the herd. You are the hammer and the sculptor, the lawgiver and the executioner of your own soul. Beyond good and evil lies a new dawn, a space where each act is neither holy nor damned, but simply yours, a pure expression of your will. Here, every hesitation is a betrayal of your own divinity. Every borrowed value a stain on the canvas of your spirit. In this new world, you do not ask, is this permitted? But instead, is this an authentic creation of my will? Does this act echo the deepest core to my being? Those who cannot bear the solitude will invent new chains, new idols, new lies to keep their trembling hearts from breaking. They will whisper of duty, of sin, of the sanctity of old laws, claw at the ruins of morality like desperate children. But you must laugh. You must dance on the shards of their shattered idols. You must walk proudly across the ruins and proclaim, I am my own law. In this fierce solitude, the last human transcends man and steps toward the divine. Each choice becomes a star cast into the void, each step a defiance of centuries of fear and trembling obedience. The universe watches, silent and indifferent, but you must become so radiant that even indifferent stars cannot ignore your fire. There is no virtue in submission when no tyrant remains. There is no sin in desire when no God remains to forbid it. There is only your will, naked, roaring, terrible, and beautiful. To embrace it fully is to transcend the narrow prison of human morality and taste the freedom that only gods have known. In that sacred space beyond good and evil, you do not merely survive. You become a creator, a living flame that burns to the night of nihilism, illuminating a new path that belongs to you alone. Imagine standing before a scorched earth where every monument to man has crumbled, every cathedral lies shattered, every library turned to dust. The voices of the multitude have gone silent, their prayers lost in the wind, their moral codes nothing but brittle relics beneath your feet. Here you are, the last human, the final witness to the collapse of an entire species and its illusions. The air trembles with a question more violent than any blade. What now? Will you weep for the lost herd? Will you lie down among the ashes? Or will you rise as a creator, forging new worlds from the bones of the old? To defy humanity is not to destroy for the sake of destruction. It is to create anew, to sculpt existence from the raw clay of chaos, to become the architect of meaning in a universe that no longer hands it to you on trembling parchment. Humanity is behind collective illusions, comforted by borrowed values, hypnotized by the safety of shared myths. They feared solitude more than death, fled from the terrifying freedom of self-creation into the warm prison of conformity. They worship stability. They adore the stagnant pool because it mirrored their own fear becoming. You must not inherit this sickness. You must rise above it as a new dawn rises over a dead sea. The last human carries the funeral urn of an entire species. But within that urn, there are seeds that yearn to burst into flame and blossom into stars. As the last human, you do not merely survive. You're called to be a creator, a divine forger of new values. You must become a god who laughs amid ruins, who sings new hymns over the graves of old ideals, who dances barefoot upon the shards of shattered truths. You must carve out meaning where there is none, build new altars not to worship, but to celebrate the might of your own spirit. You must craft laws that bind no one but yourself and songs that echo only in your own marrow. The weak will mourn the lost world and beg for resurrection, yearning for old shepherds to lead them back into the night. But you must not be tempted by their ghostly hands. You must answer their tears with laughter, their despair with radiant creation. You are not here to repair the past. You are here to set a flame and watch the smoke rise into the indifferent stars. Out of this sacred fire, you will mold your own universe, a living testament to your strength. To defy humanity is to love your solitude so fiercely that you transform it into power, to stand alone on the summit of your own becoming and roar into the abyss. I am. It is to tear down every inherited ideal and replace it with the raw vision of your own spirit. The herd sought shelter beneath the shadow of ancient gods. You must become the lightning that splits the sky and illuminates a new horizon. The herd prayed for meaning to fall from above. You must hammer meaning from the stone with your bare hands, your sweat and blood an offering to no one but your future self. When you create, you annihilate the past. When you shape new values, you bury the stench of ancient lies. In your hands, creation and destruction are no longer enemies but lovers, dancing together in an eternal spiral. You must wield both with the same fierce joy, for one cannot be born without the other's death. You must become both the funeral pyre and the sunrise that follows. To defy humanity is to refuse to inherit the rotten legacy of fear, to refuse to walk in the footprints of ghosts, to refuse to poison comfort of belonging. Instead, you stride into the void, hammer in one hand and star in the other, forging paths that no foot has ever touched, singing songs that no ear has ever heard. You become the lone god of a new cosmos, the shepherd of your own soul, the solitary sun whose light scours the darkness of all that came before. In this act of creation, you are reborn not as a mere survivor, but as a radiant architect of a future no one dared to imagine. And now, standing upon the silent bones of forgotten humanity, you face the final question. Will you choose to shrink into the shadows of the old world, clinging to the ghosts of vanished laws and trembling herds, or will you step forward as the architect of a new dawn? To be the last human is not a curse but an invitation, a fierce, holy call to rise beyond every barred ideal and every inherited fear. In your hands lies the power to create new values, to forge your own commandments from the molten core of your spirit, to become both destroyer and creator, both the hammer and the song. You are no longer merely human. You're the living flame, the wild star burning alone in a sky emptied of gods and crowds alike. You do not seek permission, you do not crave applause, and you do not fear judgment. You look into the abyss and see not despair, but infinite possibility. You dance upon the ruins with laughter in your lungs and lightning in your veins, sculpting a future that belongs only to you. Thus, do not mourn the death of the herd. Do not grieve for lost shepherds or vanished idols. Instead, raise your head high, let your voice echo across the empty heavens, and declare with every trembling atom of your being, I choose to become. I choose to create. I choose to stand alone, and in this solitude I am free.